Good evening and welcome. It's that time of the year when thousands of Fijians will start shopping for the upcoming festive season. But with recent reports of shady practices by some supermarkets and retailers, it looks to be a busy time for the consumer watchdog, the Consumer Council of Fiji, and the Fijian Competition and Consumer Commission. Tonight on the show, we're joined by the CEO of the Consumer Council of Fiji, Ms. Seema Shandil, and later on the show, we'll be joined by the CEO of the FCCC, Mr. Joel Abraham. Ms. Shandil, thank you so much for joining us this evening. So it's an important time, as mentioned, for the Consumer Council of Fiji. But if you could begin by giving us a general outline or a brief of what are some of the common trends that you've seen in terms of shady, unscrupulous practices around the festive season?
Okay, as you have said, this is the time of the year when we loosen our purse strings and go on shopping sprees, because everything that we want or anything we want is on unbeatable or unbelievable prices. So from food to gifts, to clothes, to cars, to electronics, everything, right? And then we end up spending so much money, and then we call ourselves shopaholics. But there is a flip side of the coin. It's not always that you are being shopaholics, but you are scammed to this, very carefully planned advertisement and marketing strategies. So there have been a lot of cases that we have received in terms of being, duped. What actually happens is then the retailers, because definitely they will try to maximize the profits, because that is why they are in businesses. But what happens is they try to maximize their profits through, the unfair practices. That is, as we always say, that we are not against businesses. We are not anti-businesses when we say these things. We are against bad business practices. So what we have seen is in these advertisements, the prices that are advertised do not match the prices in store. So what happens is when you see advertisement that is like saying big savings, it is like a donut with a big hole. Right, so these discounted prices are provided, big savings are advertised across pages and pages of newspapers. But actually, when the consumers go into the shop, what they see is either that product is sold at a higher price, or maybe more than double. Sometimes it's more than double. You must have also heard about fake discounts. Right, just recently, I'll give you an example, not locally, but because this is not only happening locally, but also globally. So this Australian online retail, these are online retail shopping. So Cougar, they have been sued by ACCC. This is an organization very much similar to FCCC in Fiji. They have sued them because what they did actually was they increased the price of 600 products from their regular price, and then they discounted it by 10%, and they say this is a big sale. And then they went on creating this sense of agency. That is exactly what happens in Fiji during the festive season. So they saying last day, okay, limited stock, unbeatable prices. So the question here I would like to ask the consumers is, do you really want to fall prey to this? Right? Do you really believe that these prices are unbelievable? Okay, so this is where their responsibility comes into place, because we see a lot of advertisement goes out. So this is the time where old stocks are gotten rid of at premium price. Some of the low quality products are sold at premium prices, and the point of purchase price do not match the point of sale price. And because it is a rush hour kind of thing, rush shopping, people just are bombarded with advertisements and promotions. They go and they don't check the prices, they don't check the quality, they just end up buying whatever pleases them, whatever they like. So these are some of the tactics or strategies they use. And you must have also noticed there are some retail outlets or retail shops, they are always on sale. Have you noticed that, right? Every week there's some kind of sale. So my question here is, the product can only go on a sale if it has a regular price. So if this particular retail outlet or shop is always on sale, then where is the regular price? Then why do you say it's on sale, or whether the prices are discounted?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
So, say for example, we've been looking at some of the sales that we just had. We had the Fiji Day sale. Shops generally tend to pander to those of the public that get caught up in the hype. Now, of course, in feelings of patriotism, you'll walk into a shop that has Fiji flags everywhere, Fiji merchandise, and you walk in, and whatever products are on display are of lesser value, the cheapest ones that they put out there to attract you to come inside. But when you go in, then they say, oh, that's our only piece that's left, we don't have any more, but here's something else of higher value.
Okay. That is what we call bait advertising. So what they do is they put these products right in front, or they put these products in the newspapers, or as per the advertisement that goes in air, just to lure you inside the shop. And they, when these products go on advertisements, what you'll see is up to 60% on selected prices. So this up to will be written in very small letters, 60% will be in bold dark letters, and then on selected items. So when you go and say, oh, I saw this special in the newspaper, so what they will tell you is that, oh no, that is on selected items. But because you have already gone in that shop, right, and you don't want to move around to other places because you don't have the time, you just came to get that particular product, then you end up spending more. Right? That is just one of the gimmicks. That is just one of the advertisement tricks that they use on consumers, right? And sometimes they also say, freebies, but those freebies are quite unreal. Say buy one get one free, buy two get one free. So what the consumers fail to do is they fail to check the quality of that product or whether it is useful for them. My advice to the consumers is go for the product individually, buy individual products, don't go for the freebies, because you end up paying for that freebies. The price of this product, the 5 that you need to buy or the 3 that you need to buy goes up, and then you get these useless freebies which you might not use and which is of a lower price.
In fact, earlier on you discussed the issue of having a fine print in advertising. And when we come back from our break, that's what we'll discuss. Stay with us. So, Ms. Shandil, suppose that I saw an advertisement in the newspaper. Something was there in the fine print, a condition or a term that I did not see immediately, that my eye didn't go to immediately. And I take that product to the counter at the supermarket, or that specific item. At the counter, I'm told, in front of all other consumers, that, no, you should have read the whole advertisement, the condition on this item is as such. And at that time, any consumer will feel sort of pressured to actually carry through with the purchase, right? Is there any consumer awareness that should be raised on instances like that?
Actually, we have continuously raised awareness on this aspect, because a lot of consumers have been victim on this. Just today, we have received one complaint where a supermarket has, taken out their brochures on Diwali specials. So they have certain items on special, really low prices. And then in a very fine prints, they have said that you spend $50 or above, you will be able to get only one of the products that's listed on top. Discounts are like, it dissuades the consumers to enter into their shops, and then when you see that the prices are really low, up to certain percent discounted, what happens is that you won't go and do comparison shopping. You won't go, you say, okay, I'm getting 60% here, why should I go to other shops? Whereas in other shops, you might get the same product much more cheaper. So this is where we always tell, read the fine prints, at the same time do comparative shopping. I know that is time consuming, it is, but sometimes it is our responsibility to do comparative shopping so that we can save money.
On the point of comparative shopping, people now no longer have to resort to just going to one particular retailer, because you've got quite a lot of competition. Of course, we'll discuss some of that with Mr. Abraham when he comes when he's on with us. But looking at this mindset that consumers have generally fallen prey to, and they still continue to perpetuate, that just because you have a retailer that is of a certain standard, you've got new supermarkets, you've got new retailers, and they've got branded products, so thereby, by that notion, they are allowed to charge a little extra because they need to offset their prices and the cost. They need to get a profit margin, but that's not always true.
Yes, that's not always true, but that's again is their gimmick that they use. It's the business strategies that they use, that they are providing you with a hygienic environment, and they can also charge on that, but that's not true. All supermarkets at all times should maintain the hygienic and also provide you with a variety of products to choose from. Right? But again, having said that, I think consumers have the responsibility of making the right decision. Please, when you see that, I don't think so. Sometimes we do want to enjoy the environment of it should be cold, it should be cool when we are doing shopping and things. But then at the same time, we should not be asked to pay for it, because that is the service that should be provided to the consumers, right? They should imagine a day without any consumers. They open in the morning, no consumer enters their, their retail shop or supermarkets. What will happen to them?
On that note, actually, it's interesting that you say that. I've noticed that when you said that you shouldn't have to pay for cleanliness and hygiene, it should be a given that that is a standard you must live up to because you're providing services and goods to the public. Just last week on my rounds, I happened to come across 2 instances where cooked meat was placed right next to uncooked meat. Now, of course, anyone who's in the food and sanitation industry would know that there's a chance of cross-contamination. What about instances like that? Because it could be that the cooked food is completely hygienic and clean, and the uncooked is clean and hygienic and good standard, but they're placed right next to each other. That's...
Yeah, I mean, that should not be allowed. They should not be allowed to do so. The Consumer Council have actually compiled a report on those, because we have also come across those instances during our market surveillances, and we have compiled a report and submitted to the Municipal Council, who are in charge of grading and assessing the restaurants, and we are working with them to make sure that improvements are brought about moving forward.
If we are, while we are discussing standards, before we go to break, there are some supermarkets that I believe fall below the standard. In terms of, you walk into a retail or a store and you feel that their items are not clean. There's dust everywhere. Their floors are not clean. If you go to the vegetable area, there's a stench coming of rotten vegetables. I mean, so what standards should such supermarkets be held to?
Geraldine said, we need to have one common standard, and we are working with the Ministry of Health, and moving forward we need to have one standard, maybe that is applicable to all the supermarkets so that they maintain hygiene. Yeah, you are so true. Sometimes you move out of a supermarket, you feel that you are covered with dust as well. And then, you'll see that rodents have gnawed the packaging and then they have eaten part of the food. If it is so obvious to the consumers, it should be also obvious to the supermarket management team. That is where their responsibility is to train their staff so that they can get rid of all these items from the shelf and it's not available for sale to the consumers, because it is risk to the consumers' health. Yeah.
We'll have more for you when we come back from the next break. Stay with us. Ms. Shanil, recently in the media it was extensively covered, the supermarket that was fined an amount of $20,000 for unscrupulous practices. Tell us about the procedures that the CCF and other stakeholders followed in bringing that supermarket to account.
They were fined by FCCC, because as we know that FCCC are the only enforcement agency and they can take this, retailers to court. Having said that, yes, we work with them, and we also work with other relevant agencies where we collate information and collect evidences, and then we pass it to them so that, and it's a good thing that one supermarket has been fined, and now this should send out a warning to the rest of the supermarket, because it is a very common occurrence. This is happening every day. We get complaints every day on these areas where consumers, when they go and pick up something from the shelf, the advertised price has not been, the system has not been changed accordingly. So the people end up paying more for that special, the goods that has been on specials. So normally what happens is the point of purchase price do not match with the point of sale price, or the prices that has been advertised do not match with the, again from the point of sale. So upon council's intervention, and when we go and have a discussion, the excuses that they give us is that that was a human error, or our IT system has not been updated. Then why are you putting those items on special when you know that you cannot update your IT system? It is sheer cheating. It is just a daylight robbery of consumers' hard-earned money, right? Because you know that you are putting that on specials. So supposedly if an item is supposed to go on special from Thursday, so their system should be ready from as soon as it's 12:01 Thursday morning, that prices should hit the system,
Right.
right?
On that note, let's look at it from another angle as well. You also happen to have this notion that people who are providing, or retailers that are providing goods, they forget that they're also providing a service, and the standards just seem to be dropping more and more. Every time we have the festive season, you'll see that the POS is always jammed because people are just trying to rush through, and sometimes the certain retailers are not able to keep up with it, and that becomes a deterrent for consumers with the quality of the service that's offered to them. We don't really tend to take that for granted here in Fiji. What advice do you have for retailers in terms of training their staff to cope with this?
Totally agree, because people are buying. It's a rush time. Everybody's buying everything. So maybe I would suggest that they increase the number of service staff, right? So, or increase the number of cash registers that they have, so that there's a lot of people, there to save these consumers. Because yes, I totally agree. We have to stand or spend hours in the line, and there are sometimes in the line you'll see old people, our elderly people, and some people are with the kids. And they have to stand in that line for hours before they can actually get their things cashed out.
I've had
So-
instances where I've seen this happening at a supermarket in Tamavua, and this has happened to me as well, where you spend a lot of time, because of course everyone's got a schedule to keep, you get all the stuff that you need, and just when you go up to the counter, something or the other comes along, and then you get frustrated. This is just the human side of things, and then you just leave everything and then you go away, so you're wasting both your time and the person that's serving you.
And I think we should also think about getting the systems that is practiced by our neighboring islands, where they do the they self-serve them. So once you collect it, then you can follow that line, and
Right.
then you can check yourself out. So I think we should be thinking of moving towards that side too, because I totally agree. These are many times, especially during weekends or on a Friday or during festive season, you have to spend almost or more than half an hour standing in that line for waiting for the items to be cashed out.
Interesting. There's also another thing that I noticed earlier on in the week. We went over to the western side, and we saw that there was a difference in the way that the services were being offered to those who are locals and those who are tourists, and this becomes very prominent during the festive season, especially if you happen to go to service providers, you go to hotels, you go to restaurants, you see taxi drivers and all of that. It has a trickle-down effect.
It does, because our tourists, right? We really want to make them happy before they leave this country. They should be happy and saying, "Oh, Fiji is a wonderful place," and it is a wonderful place. That's what we want to say, right? But having said that, because I have seen instances where they get frustrated because they are not served in a timely manner. We have also received complaints in that sense. So this is where we need to beef up our services, right? We really need to. We have to see what are the issues. I mean, we are happy to work with the traders. We are happy to show them, what are the issues that we receive and what are the areas they need to work to improve their services. This will create a win-win situation, not only for them, not for the consumers, but also for them.
Since Diwali is coming up, a lot of people will be going to different retailers to look for clothes for Diwali. This is something that I've faced personally in my family, at least. So you walk into a retailer, there's a sari place there for $1,000, right? So that's their retail price that they're offering. And then you go to the point of sale and you ask for a discount from the manager. And after, if you haggle well enough, the price of the sari, for example, can be brought down to 500 or, for example, 600. So if someone has the retail price of $1,000 and they are willing to give you a discount of $400, what does that tell you about the practices of that retailer?
Good question asked. But that shows that if we buy items individually, we can get better discount than buying under fake discounts, as we said, forced discount, right? So that actually that was I really want consumers to go and bargain for individual items rather than just rushing towards when there is a big sale or unbelievable what do you call that, unbelievable prices are out there. So you just go for individual items and then you bargain on that individual items. I think you will get better deal on that individual items.
Let's look at another thing that, of course, people will be thinking about, budgeting. Of course, it becomes very difficult in instances like this. You've got Diwali, then you've got Christmas just after that. Some people may not have the buying power, which is where lending and credit systems come in. Recently, the CCF has been, not advertising, but rather advocating for people to be smart about how they borrow, how they lend, how they pay back. What's the progress on that so far?
Currently, I mean, CCOF also have a unit that looks after, they provide credit advisory, because what we have seen is during this festive season, our consumers end up borrowing a lot, because we understand that there is a lot of expenses that needs to be met. So what we do here is we provide advice on financial products, right? So and tips on borrowing for if they are intending to buy a car or a house, and also to help them restructure their debt, because what happens is they continuously take debt because they need to provide for their family, and should they be a function, then they need extra money. I mean, normally all of us, what we do is we want to be part of that function. So, and we want also at the same time want to fulfill the wants and needs of our family during this time. So we end up taking more loans than we can pay for. Right? So this is where we come in. We try to provide them with financial advice, how they can be responsible borrowers, and if they are finding any financial difficulty, we help them to, we communicate with the relevant credit institutions and help them to get a debt restructure, where they are given, additional months and with a bit lower payment.
Before we let you go, Ms. Shandil, just very quickly, do you have any advice for consumers who will be shopping out there?
Yes. Thinking through your purchase not only makes you a frugal, it makes you a smart shopper. Okay, so I'm not saying you become stingy and don't buy anything. What I'm saying is be very smart, be responsible, think twice before you buy anything, prioritize your needs and wants, right? Don't overshoot your budget limits. You have to think what you actually need, why you need that, and can you do without it. If you can do without it, please don't get enticed with these specials, with the freebies, with the sense of agency that is created because of this sale. And think what actually you need. Don't get pressurized by your peers. If your peer is buying a sari Geraldine, please don't go and start buying the same sari for yourself. Think very wisely. Do you really need it? Can you do without it? Okay, and also as I said, try to buy individual items and then seek discount on it. Okay, don't go for freebies, because sometimes those freebies are not really necessary for you, because you don't need it.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show. When we come back from our break, we'll be joined by the CEO of the Fijian Competition and Consumer Commission. Welcome back. We're now joined by Mr. Lomani, the Acting Coordinator Operations at the Fijian Competition and Consumer Commission, filling in for the CEO, Mr. Abraham, who unfortunately couldn't be with us. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Lomani. And let's talk about, in this segment, the $20,000 fine and what the FCCC did, what the FCCC's role was in that.
Okay, so the FCCC has monitoring officers that do monitoring inspections, daily inspections. And with that, we go and check these supermarkets for the prices. If the prices displayed on the shelves actually match with the prices that we cash in. So in that instant, we got a complaint from a complainant who notified us that the price that was displayed on the shelf didn't actually match with the price that she was charged with at the counter.
Is this something that FCCC faces a lot of the time? Are a lot of supermarkets or retailers doing this?
We do face this issue time and again. And the FCCC has taken appropriate actions to resolve this.
So the FCCC in this role as an enforcer has fined that supermarket $20,000. But what we're interested in knowing is, for a supermarket that has, let's say, a turnover in millions, right? will this $20,000 fine really act as a strong deterrent?
Well, for previous cases, the fines have accumulated to as much as 2,000, 3,000. This $20,000 fine has it'll act as a precedent, and it will only increase as other similar charges comes in.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but currently legislation does not allow for a suspension of their trading licenses as yet, and we've already spoken about this at length with Ms. Seema Shandil in previous shows. Talk to us about unscrupulous behaviors by workers of certain retailers. Recently, Mr. Abraham had come on and said to the media that he's received instances where workers themselves say, for example, when they're in a supermarket, they switch off their freezers for frozen meat, which actually becomes a cause for meat becoming decayed, and they have to sell it all over again. Have you spoken to not necessarily just the retailers themselves, but the workers, and trying to encourage them to report these matters?
Yes, ma'am. The FCCC also works on creating awareness. Not only to consumers, to the general public, we also conduct awareness in supermarkets. These are some of the things that we raise with them, like some of the things that we have charged them with or we have found them guilty of. These are some of the things that we raise during these awarenesses. And we have had cases, receive complaints from consumers who complain about the degrading meat, and we've acted immediately on this in collaboration with the Ministry of Health inspectors, and also we are currently in talks with HACCP Australia to do an MOU and for them to create awareness, do lessons on international best food practices.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, this brings us back to our discussion on standards that we were speaking with Ms. Shandil earlier. So at the moment, what is the standard, or what sets the standard for these supermarkets in terms of their food cleanliness or the cleanliness of the retailer itself, in terms of training staff adequately? What sets the standard at the moment?
This is why we've in previous years, or especially during festive seasons, we've had joint inspections with the Ministry of Health, because these health inspectors, they're the ones that look into the hygiene of these supermarkets, of these restaurants. So when we go into these supermarkets, we also are accompanied by these health inspectors. So we conduct a very comprehensive inspection. We look at things from the FCCC side, and they look at things from the health side, hygiene of these supermarkets.
Now, unfortunately, we don't have any representative from the Ministry of Health to tell us exactly what benchmark they have. Of course, grade A, grade B may be acceptable, but what is the cutoff? Because as far as I'm concerned, I have seen instances where you have establishments displaying their grading system, that this is graded A or graded B. What is the mark that...
at what point does FCCC say...
Do they say, okay, no, you cannot
this is
operate,
not
it's not acceptable?
We do receive complaints from consumers through Facebook that they take pictures of this meat. When you see this meat, a layperson can just come and see, oh, this meat is not fit for consumption. Mm-hmm. The color of the meat is just, it's not, the usual color of meat that you see, mm-hmm. that you would actually want to buy. Mm-hmm. We have chicken meat that's, turning black. So those are some of the things that we look at, and when you do encounter these things, we go to supermarkets and we advise them. We advise them to remove this. You can't be selling this kind of products, meat products.
Mm-hmm.
And talk to us about the partnership that the FCCC has with the Consumer Council of Fiji. Of course, as Ms. Shandil discussed earlier, the Consumer Council doesn't have enforcement powers, it doesn't have prosecutorial powers. So how does this partnership work, especially in times like this during the festive season? Okay,
as I mentioned, we have joint inspections with health inspectors. We also have joint inspections with the Consumer Council. and they act as a awareness body for us. They go and create awareness to the consumers, not only talking about the 7 rights of the consumer, but also talking about sections of the FCCC Act, like keeping your receipt. So we're thankful to the Consumer Council of Fiji for raising awareness on our behalf.
We'll have more from the FCCC when we come back from our break in the final segment. Stay with us. So, since this is the festive season, we've got Diwali coming up next week, and right after that is Christmas around the corner, the New Year, and the shopping trend will continue into the New Year. We're already seeing a lot of retailers advertising their products, and some of these advertisements sometimes have the tendency to become a bit misleading, right? Have you picked that up? Is the FCCC monitoring that closely?
Yes, we have. For this festive seasons, as you can see, the FCCC has already published articles, weekly articles in the Fiji Times and Fiji Sun papers for consumers to be very cautious, to be vigilant during these festive seasons. The FCCC has also we've also beefed up our inspections on the ground. So with that, we're also working in collaboration with the Ministry of Health and also the Consumer Council of Fiji to beef up our manpower on the ground and conduct these comprehensive inspections on supermarkets.
What about working with retailers associations, since they're the main point of contact for most of these retailers out there?
Yes, ma'am. We do that. We do also raise awareness on this kind of things. We also recently we've been signing a voluntary compliance frameworks with.
I think this year earlier on you did one with Vinod Patel.
Vinod Patel, yeah. And that has worked so well for us. This framework, it provides the Vinod Patel to resolve consumer complaints if it comes up. But recently we haven't received any complaints whatsoever on this after signing these frameworks with Vinod Patel.
Are there other stakeholders that you're looking to sign with?
We have recently just signed with Prouds, which comes under the Motibai group of companies. We've just recently signed with them last week. And we are looking forward to signing with other supermarkets.
Looking forward to this particular festive season is also going to be what we call cyclone season. So of course there's going to be quite a lot of people going out there getting construction materials. We've had instances in the past, of course, where complaints were lodged with the CCF and also with the FCCC about retailers and traders overcharging and not supplying goods and services in a timely manner. Are you looking to negate this in the upcoming months?
Yes, ma'am. So we've been raising these awarenesses. We've been going from shop to shop, from retailers to supermarkets and to these hardware shops, informing them of the things that they'll need to do and what consumers expect from them, and all those sorts of stuff that will keep them within the precincts of the FCCC Act.
Whenever it's festive season, we always try and raise awareness amongst our consumers. We asked the CCF to send out a message to all consumers on what they should look out for. And I guess we'll ask the FCCC as well, if there's a consumer out there looking to shop for the festive season, what things should they, in your opinion, be careful of? What should they look out for?
Well, my advice to consumers during these festive seasons, we've encountered in previous years that this is the time where supermarkets or traders, they come up, they want to get rid of their old stock, and they tend to put, mistakenly, I don't know, but they tend to put expired items on shelves. So it's my advice to consumers to be very vigilant. Don't engage in any too much. Don't be taken away by these sweet advertisements.
Interesting to note that we've only looked at what happens when you are purchasing products, but there's also another aspect, the service providers. We've got internet service providers, we've got massage therapists, we've got those that do house-to-house catering and all of those sort of services. If one were to keep a record or keep a track of how they've been fooled with services that are provided, then how do you do that? With a product, of course, you just need to have the product itself and the receipt.
To also provide these services, they'll also need to give receipts or invoices, and we advise the consumers and the public, to keep this record.
If someone were to raise a complaint with you, what are the procedures? I mean, this is something that we talk about all the time, but it's still something that a lot of people don't know. I mean, something as simple as keeping a receipt for evidence sake, right?
Yeah.
You must have noticed a lot of people don't do that. There's still a lot of consumers who don't realize the importance of it. So if we can have another reminder of what the procedure is, let's say, for example, if I've got a complaint and I try and contact the FCCC, what procedures does the FCCC then follow?
That was something I also wanted to advise the public on, to keep the receipts. Whenever we go shopping, we have a lot of shopping, we tend to just throw away the receipts. So that would be one of my advice, to keep the receipts, because that is the first thing that we ask for, is the documentary evidence. When they call in, or when they come into office to lodge a complaint, we ask for the documentary evidence, because without any evidence, complaint will be shortcoming.
I suppose just a lead up to that question would be: is there any cut-off time for the goods and services that were provided? Is there maybe 6 months time period? Can they still come in and lodge a complaint, or is there a cut-off period?
I would prefer they come and lodge the complaint, right after they don't receive so if I buy a timber from any hardware and they said they'll deliver in 2 weeks, and after 3 weeks I follow up with them, they still don't deliver it, we advise that the consumer contact us and raise their issues with the FCCC.
So a final question to you. If someone wanted, let's say if someone doesn't have a receipt, if they haven't kept evidence, but they still faced something that clearly shouldn't be the case, are there any other mechanisms?
We also have procedures, mechanisms to go about with our investigations. So if a complainant comes to us without a receipt, that still be dubbed as categorized as a informal complaint, but we'll still receive it, and we'll try our best to get a copy of the receipt.
Can one in this instance actually take
Pictures or videos? Because now the incidence of people having smartphones and tablets and devices is quite prevalent in the country. If you're not able to keep your receipt with you, can you take a picture or a video of that and forward it to
We
the
do
FCCC?
accept that.
Yeah.
We do accept that evidence, but we're looking further to the part where if the complaint is not resolved with the respondent or with the trader, then from there on, our way forward is to take the matters to court, and the court will always need, the original receipt, the original document. So that's why we advise consumers or complainants to come with their original documents.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lomani, for joining us, and we wish the FCCC all the best in its work.
Thank you for this.
That's all we have for you this week. Join us again next week. Good evening.